What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Today is February 23rd, 2026, and today we are starting our 20th book in our Book to React series. This is episode 1 of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. The reason we're reading this book is because I'm taking a course this semester, another Black American or race and literature class, similar to the one I took last semester, where I was reading these African fiction books for my studies at university. And I wanted to read this book on live because, first and foremost, it's one of my favorite books that I've ever read. I read this book before, and this is actually going to be the first time in the Book to React series where we are revisiting a text. Maybe not on screen, but definitely something I've read before that I've been wanting to share with the people. Secondly, it's a book that I have to do a report on. I got to do a presentation on this book in about 2 weeks or so. So I'm jumping ahead of my homework and actually, reading this bit by bit on live with the people. So that's the idea of reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man with y'all. Firstly, to share it because I love it. Secondly, to get ready because it's homework. So hopefully you enjoy this. Hopefully everybody out there finds something positive with this. Without further ado, let's jump into 2 things we do before we read any text. We find out about the author. I'm going to read briefly about Ralph Ellison, who you can see here on the horizontal live stream. Ralph Ellison was born in Oklahoma City in 1913. And he died in 1994 in, New York City. So Ralph Waldo Ellison was an American writer, literary critic, and a scholar best known for his novel Invisible Man, which won the National Book Award in 1953. Ellison wrote Shadow and Act in 1964, a collection of political, social, and critical essays, and Going to the Territory in 1986. The New York Times dubbed him among the gods of America's literary Parnassus, basically saying he's one of the gods of American literature. A posthumous novel, Juneteenth, was published after being assembled from voluminous notes Ellison left upon his death. All right, so that's a brief, very brief biography on Ralph Ellison. And before we jump into the actual reading of the book, let's do a brief overview about this book and its significance. So Invisible Man is Ralph Ellison's first novel and the only one published during his lifetime. It was first published by the British magazine Horizon in 1947 and addresses many of the social and intellectual issues faced by African Americans in the early 20th century, including Black nationalism, the relationship between Black identity and Marxism, and the reformist racial policies of Booker T. Washington, as well as issues of individuality and personal identity. Invisible Man won the U.S. National Book Award for Fiction in 1953, making Ellison the first African American writer to win the award. In 1998, the Modern Library ranked Invisible Man 19th on its list of 100 best English language novels of the 20th century. Damn, not just American English, not just North American, like English novels, period, of the 20th century. Damn. Time magazine included the novel in its 100 best English language novels from 1923 to 2005 list, calling it the quintessential American picaresque of the 20th century. Malcolm Bradbury and Richard Ruland recognized a Black existentialist vision with a Kafka-like absurdity. According to the New York Times, Barack Obama modeled his 1995 memoir, Dreams from My Father, on Ellison's novel. So that's how important and profound this book is. And I haven't read Dreams of My Father. I got it over here on my bookshelf, and I've been meaning to crack it open for some time. But I can say this. When I first read this book, I'm going to talk about my life very briefly. I first read this book, I had to be, and I say this often, when I was about maybe 16, 17. High school, you know what I'm saying? And I was doing heavy reading then. A lot of reading about Black history, culture, revolutionary thought, socialist thought, you know what I'm saying? And widely a bunch of stuff. A little stuff about atheism as well, you know what I'm saying? A lot of Marxist stuff as well. So I was reading a lot of that when I was in my late teens. And Invisible Man came across as a part of the just fiction that I would grab from the library. I would go to the public library on North 18th Street in Monroe, Louisiana. I'd be in there almost every single fucking weekend, snatching up books. And then I'd go to the library at my school snatch up books, and I'd be reading them all over the weekend. Also writing raps too and fucking on these hoes. But Ellison's book came across my path, and I remember reading it and feeling like this is funny, this is deep, this is moving, this is tragic, this is a crazy story. It's a weird sort of feeling that you have when a book feels like it's telling your life story, dragging you along with it, but you feel like you're walking the path as well. You know what I'm saying? And one of the most visual memories I have, because sometimes when I read a book, the images in there are so real and so raw that they become visual in my mind. If I remember in this book, there's a scene when the main character goes to a university and he looks at the bronze statue of their famous black founder, and the founder has bird shit. Well, the statue has bird shit in its eyes. So it's like white shit. If you've seen bird shit, you know it's white. So this bronze statue of this black man has white shit in his eyes, and the tears of the tears, what look like tears from his eyes, are the streams of bird shit falling down as well. So it's sort of like very poetical and like metaphorical that, you know, we look to a future, but we can't see past the white bird shit that's in our eyes. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure this scene is in here because I remember that so vividly hitting me, because I was applying to universities at that time and I was about to go to a predominantly white university. But that scene of the bird shit in the bronze statue's eyes stuck with me, and I really can't wait to share this book with the people and break it down with y'all and do my presentation in front of my all-white class and piss everybody off. Without further ado, let's get into Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man right here. Let's go to the dedication section. He writes, "To Ida, you are saved," cried Captain Delano, more and more astonished and pained. "You are saved. What has cast such a shadow upon you? Herman Melville Benito Sereno." "Harry, I tell you, it is not me you are looking at, not me you are grinning at, not me your confidential looks incriminate, but that other person, if person, you thought I was. Let your necrophilia feed upon that carcass." T.S. Eliot, Family Reunion. All right. We're going to continue right here. We're going to only read the prologue in chapter 1 of this book and then call it a day. And how many chapters? We have 25 chapters in this book. So it's going to be quite a ride, but hopefully we can finish it in about a week or a week and a half. So let's go here. The prologue of Invisible Man. "I am an invisible man. No, I am not a spook like those who haunted Edgar Allan Poe. Nor am I one of your Hollywood movie ectoplasms. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind." That's kind of funny. "I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me. Like the bodiless heads you see sometimes in circus sideshows. It is as though I have been surrounded by mirrors of hard distorting glass. When they approach me, they see only my surroundings, themselves, or figments of their imagination. Indeed, everything and anything except me." Profound. "Nor is my invisibility exactly a matter of biochemical accident to my epidermis. That invisibility to which I refer occurs because of a particular disposition of the eyes of those with whom I come in contact. A matter of the construction of their inner eyes, those eyes with which they look through their physical eyes upon reality. I am not complaining, nor am I protesting either. It is sometimes advantageous to be unseen, although it is, most often, rather weaving on the nerves. Then, too, you're constantly being bumped against by those of poor vision, or again, you often doubt if you really exist. You wonder whether you aren't simply a phantom in other people's minds. Say a figure in a nightmare, which the sleeper tries with all his strength to destroy. It's when you feel like this that out of resentment you begin to bump people back. And let me confess, you feel that way most of the time. You ache with the need to convince yourself that you do exist in the real world, that you're all a part of all the sound and anguish, and you strike out with your fist. You curse and you swear to make them recognize you, and alas, it's seldom successful." Man, he is just knocking it out. He's killing it already. Black existentialism. Where else are you going to find this type of black philosophy on YouTube? Nowhere. One night, I accidentally bumped into a man, and perhaps because of the near darkness, he saw me and called me an insulting name. I sprang at him, seized his coat lapels, and demanded that he apologize. He was a tall, blond man, and as my face came close to his, he looked insolently out of his blue eyes and cursed me, his breath hot in my face as he struggled. I pulled his chin down sharp upon the crown of my head, butting him as I had seen the West Indians do, and I felt his flesh tear and blood gush out, and I yelled, "Apologize, apologize," grabbed that white man and said, boom! But he continued to curse and struggle. I butted him again and again until he went down heavily on his knees, profusely bleeding. I kicked him repeatedly in a frenzy because he still uttered insults through his lips, though his lips were frothy with blood. Oh yes, I kicked him. And in my outrage, I got out my knife and prepared to slit his throat right there beneath the lamplight in the deserted street, holding him by the collar with one hand and opening the knife with my teeth. When it occurred to me that the man had not seen me, actually that he, as far as he knew, was in the midst of a walking nightmare. And I stopped the blade, slicing the air as I pushed him away, letting him fall back to the street. I stared at him hard as the lights of a car stabbed through the darkness. He lay there, moaning on the asphalt, a man almost killed by a phantom. It unnerved me. I was both disgusted and ashamed. I was like a drunken man myself, wavering about on weakened legs. Then I was amused. Something in this man's thick head had sprung out and beaten him within an inch of his life. Think about that. So he's saying here, he attacked this white man because presumably the white man called him the N-word. He grabs him by the collar, headbutts him, beats him while he's on the ground. The white man is still cursing him out and calling him all sorts of nasty, derogatory slurs for black people. And as he continues to beat him, he's thinking to himself, this white man wasn't actually upset at me. He was just making up some idea of what he was upset at. I am invisible. As black people, as a black man, I am invisible. I exist only as a phantom in the mind of the anti-black racist or the non-black person. So every time I've been called the N-word, it wasn't they're actually calling me stupid, ignorant, or lazy. They are just projecting this phantom that exists. And this is the root of Afro-pessimism, which is very deep because now that I'm older, I'm grasping this concept even more. When I was younger, I understood this at a fundamental level. But now, as I get older, I see the Afro-pessimism at the root of Ralph Ellison's fiction right here, which is very profound, right? Anyway, I'm going to continue here. Then I was amused. Something in this man's thick head had sprung out and beaten him within an inch of his life. I began to laugh at this crazy discovery. Would he have awakened at the point of death? Would death himself have freed him for wakeful living? But I didn't linger. I ran away into the dark, laughing so hard I feared I might rupture myself. The next day I saw his picture in the Daily News, beneath a caption stating that he had been mugged. Poor fool. Poor blind fool. I thought with sincere compassion, mugged by an invisible man. Ha 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 ha. Most of the time, although I do not choose, as I once did, to deny the violence of my days by ignoring it, I am not so overtly violent. I remember there are few things in the world as dangerous as sleepwalkers. I learned in time, though, that it is possible to carry on a fight against them without their realizing it. For instance, I have been carrying on a fight with monopolated light and power for some time now. I use their service and pay them nothing at all, and they don't know it. Oh, they suspect that power is being drained off, but they don't know where. All they know is that according to the master meter back there in their power station, a hell of a lot of free current is disappearing somewhere into the jungle of Harlem. The joke, of course, is that I don't live in Harlem, but in a border area. Several years ago, before I discovered the advantage of being invisible, I went through the routine process of buying service and paying their outrageous rates. But no more. I gave up all that, along with my apartment and my old way of life. That way based upon the fallacious assumption that I, like other men, was visible. Now aware of my invisibility, I live rent-free in a building rented strictly to whites, in a section of the basement that was shut off and forgotten during the 19th century, which I discovered when I was trying to escape into the night from Ross the Destroyer. But that's getting too far ahead of the story, almost to the end, although the end is in the beginning and lies far ahead. This is so dope. What I love about this book is how it's a bit absurd. This is like Dave Chappelle doing a bit more serious of his peak comedy. Like 5, 7, or 8 years ago when Dave Chappelle was at his peak, comedic-wise, and if he wrote a book, it would be Invisible Man. You get what I'm saying? Now Dave Chappelle really fell off. But this is just hilarious. I mean, the guy is like stealing power, living in like an abandoned part of an all-white building in the basement. Like fucking, this is like pure comedy. Pure comedy. Anyway, the roots of Afro-absurdism can be found in Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Continuing here. The point now is that I found a home, or a hole in the ground, as you will. Now, don't jump to the conclusion that because I call my home a hole, it is damp and cold like a grave. There are cold holes and warm holes. Mine is a warm hole. And remember, a bear retires to his hole for the winter and lives until spring. Then he comes strolling out like the Easter chick breaking from its shell. I say all this to assure you that it is incorrect to assume that because I am invisible and live in a hole, I am dead. I am neither dead nor in a state of suspended animation. Call me Jack the Bear, for I am in a state of hibernation. My hole is warm and full of light. Yes, full of light. I doubt if there is a brighter spot in all of New York than this hole of mine. And I do not exclude Broadway or the Empire State Building on a photographer's dream night. But that is taking advantage of you. Those two spots are among the darkest of our whole civilization. Pardon me, our whole culture, an important distinction I've heard, which might sound like a hoax or a contradiction. But that, by contradiction I mean, is how the world moves. Not like an arrow, but a boomerang. Beware of those who speak of the spiral of history. They are preparing a boomerang. Keep a steel helmet handy. I know, I have boomeranged across my head so much that I can now see the darkness of lightness. And I love light. Perhaps you'll think it strange that an invisible man should need light, desire light, love light. But maybe it is exactly because I am invisible. Light confirms my reality, gives birth to my form. A beautiful girl once told me of a recurring nightmare in which she lay in the center of a large dark room and felt her face expand until it filled the whole room, becoming a formless mass, while his eyes ran in bilious jelly up the chimney. And so it is with me. Without light, I am not only invisible, but formless as well. And to be unaware of one's form is to live a life of death. I myself, after existing some 20 years, did not become alive until I discovered my invisibility. Ooh, there's so much I want to say. I can rant for hours about every single line in that sentence, but I'm just going to say, I have just one thing to say about the last line. I was not alive until I discovered my invisibility. I feel like being black to some degree. To some degree, it's like when you have to take a certain pill. You have to take a pill. And there's several pills you can take. But when you take that pill and you cross over to the other side and have the realization that we are the socially dead, the walking zombies, that's the pill that I took. I don't know which one you took. Then that's when you can actually live life. When you realize that no amount of AAVE, no amount of suit wearing, no amount of dancing, no amount of education, no amount of sexuality, no matter how large your penis, how big your brain, how big your bank account, you are what you are. When you take that pill, then you are truly free. And the light becomes your friend. I'll just leave it there. Anyway, this is why I fight my battle with monopolated light and power. The deeper reason, it allows me to feel my vital aliveness. I also fight them for taking so much of my money before I learned to protect myself. In my hole in the basement, there are exactly 1,369 lights. I've wired the entire ceiling, every inch of it, and not with fluorescent bulbs, but with the older, more expensive to operate kind, the filament type. An act of sabotage, you know. I've already begun to wire the wall. A junk man I know, a man of vision, has supplied me with wire and sockets. Nothing, storm or flood, must get in the way of our need for light and ever more and brighter light. The truth is the light, and light is the truth. When I finish all four walls, then I'll start on the floor. Just how that will go, I don't know. Yet when you have lived invisible as long as I have, you develop a certain ingenuity. I'll solve the problem, and maybe I'll invent a gadget to place my coffee pot on the fire while I lie in bed, and even invent a gadget to warm my bed, like the fellow I saw in one of the picture magazines who made himself a gadget to warm his shoes. Though invisible, I am in the great American tradition of tinkers. That makes me kin to Ford, Edison, and Franklin. Call me, since I have a theory and a concept, a thinker-tinker. Yes, I'll warm my shoes. They'll need it. They're usually full of holes. I'll do that and more. Now I have one radio phonograph. I plan to have 5. There is a certain acoustical deadness in my hull, and when I have music, I want to feel its vibration, not only with my ear, but with my whole body. I'd like to hear 5 recordings of Louis Armstrong playing and singing, "What Did I Do to Be So Black and Blue?" all at the same time. Sometimes now I listen to Louis while I have my favorite dessert of vanilla ice cream and sloe gin. I pour the red liquid over the white mound, watching it glisten and the vapor rising as Louis bends that military instrument into a beam of lyrical sound. Perhaps I like Louis Armstrong because he's made poetry out of being invisible. I think it must be because he's unaware that he is invisible. Ooh! And my own grasp of invisibility aids me to understand his music. Once when I asked for a cigarette, some jokers gave me a reefer, which I lighted when I got home and sat listening to my phonograph. It was a strange evening. Invisibility, let me explain, gives one a slightly different sense of time. You're never quite on the beat. Sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Instead of the swift and imperceptible flowing of time, you are aware of its nodes, those points where time stands still or from which it leaps ahead, and you slip into the breaks and looks around. That's what you hear vaguely in Lewis's music. Once I saw a prize fighter boxing a yokel. The fighter was swift and amazingly scientific. His body was one violent flow of rapid rhythmic action. He hit the yokel 100 times while the yokel held up his arms in stunned surprise. But suddenly the yokel, rolling about in the gale of boxing gloves, struck one blow and knocked science, speed, and footwork as cold as a well-digger's posterior. The smart money hit the canvas. The long shot got the nod. The yokel had simply stepped inside the opponent's sense of time. So under the spell of the reefer, I discovered a new analytical way of listening to music. The unheard sounds came through, and each melodic line existed of itself, stood out clearly from all the rest, said its piece, and waited patiently for the other voices to speak. That night, I found myself hearing not only in time, but in space as well. I not only entered the music, but descended, like Dante, into the depths. And beneath the swiftness of the hot tempo, there was a slow tempo and a cave, and I entered it and looked around and heard an old woman singing a spiritual as full as Welsh schmerz as flamenco. And beneath that lay a still lower level on which I saw a beautiful girl the color of ivory, pleading in a voice like my mother's as she stood before a group of slave owners who bid for her naked body, and below that I found a lower level and a more rapid tempo, and I heard someone shout, "Brothers and sisters, my text this morning is the blackness of blackness." And a congregation of voices answered, "That blackness is most black, brother, most black." In the beginning, at the very start, they cried, there was blackness, preach it, and the sun, Lord, was bloody red, red. Now black is, the preacher shouted, bloody. I said black is, preach it, brother, and black ain't it? Red, Lord, red. He said it's red. Amen, brother. Black will get you, yes it will, and black won't, nah it won't. It do, Lord, and it don't, hallelujah. I'll put you, glory, glory, oh my Lord, in the whale's belly. Preach it, dear brother, and make you tempt. Good God Almighty, old Aunt Nellie, black will make you black, or black will unmake you. Ain't it the truth, Lord? And at that point, a voice of trombone timbre screamed at me, get out of here, you fool. Is you ready to commit treason? And I tore myself away, hearing the old singer of spirituals moaning, "Go curse your God, boy, and die." I stopped and questioned her, asked her what was wrong. "I dearly loved my master's son," she said. "You should have hated him," I said. "He gave me several sons," she said, "and because I loved my sons, I learned to love their father, though I hated him too." "I too have become acquainted with ambivalence," I said. "That's why I'm here." "What's that?" "Nothing, a word that doesn't explain it. Why do you moan?" "I moan this way 'cause he's dead," she said. "Then tell me, who is that laughing upstairs?" "Them's my sons, they glad." "Yes, I can understand that too," I said. "I laughs too, but I moans too. He promised to set us free, but he never could bring himself to do it. Still, I loved him." "Loved him, you mean?" "Oh yes, but I love something else even more." "What more?" "Freedom." "Freedom," I said. "Maybe freedom lies in hating." "Nah, son, it's in loving. I loved him and give him the poison, and he withered away like a frostbit apple. Them boys would have tore him to pieces with they homemade knives. A mistake was made somewhere," I said. "I'm confused, and I wished to say other things, but the laughter upstairs became too loud and moan-like for me, and I tried to break out of it, but I couldn't. Just as I was leaving, I felt an urgent desire to ask her what freedom was, and went back. She sat with her head in her hands, moaning softly. Her leather brown face was filled with sadness. "Old woman, what is this freedom you love so well?" I asked around a corner of my mind. She looked surprised, then thoughtful, then baffled. "I done forgot, son. It's all mixed up. First, I think it's one thing, then I think it's another. I gets my head to spinning. I guess now it ain't nothing but knowing how to say what I got up in my head. But it's a hard job, son. Too much has done happened to me in too short a time. Hits like I have a fever. Every time I start to walk, my head gets to swirling and I falls down. Or if it ain't that, it's the boys. They gets to laughing and wants to kill up the white folks. They's bitter. That's what they is. But what about freedom? Leave me alone, boy. My head aches. I left her, feeling dizzy myself. I didn't get far. Suddenly, one of the sons, a big fellow 6 feet tall, appeared out of nowhere and struck me with his fist. "What's the matter, man?" I cried. "You made Ma cry." "But how?" I said, dodging a blow. "Asking her them questions, that's how. Get out of here and stay. And next time you got questions like that, ask yourself." He held me in a grip like cold stone, his fingers fastening upon my windpipe until I thought I would suffocate before he finally allowed me to go. I stumbled about, dazed, the music beating hysterically in my ears. It was dark. My head cleared, and I wandered down a dark, narrow passage, thinking I heard his footsteps hurrying behind me. I was sore, and into my being had come a profound craving for tranquility, for peace and quiet, a state I felt I could never achieve. For one thing, the trumpet was blaring and the rhythm was too hectic. A tom-tom beating like heart thuds began drowning out the trumpet, filling my ears. I longed for water, and I heard it rushing through the cold mains my fingers touched as I felt my way, but I couldn't stop to search because of the footsteps behind me. "Hey, Ross," I called. "Is it you, Destroyer? Reinhardt?" No answer, only the rhythmic footsteps behind me. Once I tried crossing the road, but a speeding machine struck me, scraping the skin from my leg as it roared past. Then somehow I came out of it, ascending hastily from this underworld of sound to hear Louis Armstrong innocently asking, "What did I do to be so black and blue?" So how I interpret that whole fever dream is when you be getting high, especially if you smoking bunk weed, garbage weed, you be thinking of some wild shit. And that's one of the reasons I don't be smoking, because I used to get super high. I used to smoke a ton of garbage weed in Monroe, Louisiana, and also in New Orleans when I was studying in university. And I would get so high that I would really get depressed, really fucking sad. And so I always associate marijuana in my mind with being hella sad, hella depressed, and I start thinking about all the negative things of this world, especially in relation to blackness. Because when I was smoking weed, I would turn on TV and I'd see Trayvon Martin get killed. I would see fucking Troy Davis getting executed. I would see a bunch of negative shit in relation to black folks. You know what I'm saying? And we got a black president at the time. So I'm going mentally crazy. Like the world was upside down. So that's how I interpret that. When you be getting high and you be black, you don't be having like, I don't know, white folks hippie dreams. You be having some dark negative shit go into your mind. Anyway, I'm going to continue here. At first, I was afraid. This familiar music had demanded action, the kind of which I was incapable, and yet, had I lingered there beneath the surface, I might have attempted to act. Nevertheless, I know now that few really listen to this music. I sat on the chair's edge in a soaking sweat, as though each of my 1,369 bulbs had everyone become a Klieg light. Had everyone become a Klieg light in the individual setting for a third degree with Ross and Reinhardt in charge. It was exhausting, as though I had held my breath continuously for an hour under the terrifying serenity that comes from days of intense hunger. And yet it was a strangely satisfying experience for an invisible man to hear the silence of sound. I had discovered unrecognized compulsions of my being, even though I could not answer yes to their promptings. I haven't smoked a reefer since. However, not because they're illegal, but because to see around corners is enough. That is not unusual when you are invisible. But to hear around them is too much. It inhibits action. And despite Brother Jack and all that sad, lost period of the Brotherhood, I believe in nothing if not in action. Please, a definition. A hibernation is a covert preparation for a more overt action. Besides, the drug destroys one's sense of time completely. If that happened, I might forget to dodge some bright morning and some cluck would run me down with an orange and yellow streetcar, or a bilious bus, or I might forget to leave my hole when the moment for action presents itself. Meanwhile, I enjoy my life with the compliments of monopolated light and power, since you never recognize me, even when in closest contact with me, and since no doubt you'll hardly believe that I exist. It won't matter if you know that I tapped a power line leading into the building and ran it into my hole in the ground. Before that, I lived in the darkness into which I chased, but now I see. I've illuminated the blackness of my invisibility, and vice versa. And so I play the invisible music of my isolation. The last statement doesn't seem just right, does it? But it is. You hear this music simply because music is heard and seldom seen, except by musicians. Could this compulsion to put invisibility down in black and white be thus an urge to make music of invisibility? But I am an orator, a rabble-rouser. Am I? I was, and perhaps shall be again. Who knows? All sickness is not unto death, neither is invisibility. I can hear you say, what a horrible, irresponsible bastard. And you're right. I leap to agree with you. I am one of the most irresponsible beings that ever lived. Irresponsibility is part of my invisibility. Any way you face it, it is a denial. But to whom can I be responsible? And why should I be, when you refuse to see me, and wait until I reveal how truly irresponsible I am? Responsibility rests upon recognition, and recognition is a form of agreement. Take the man whom I almost killed. Who was I responsible for that near murder? I? I don't think so, and I refuse it. I won't buy it. You can't give it to me. He bumped me. He insulted me. Shouldn't he, for his own personal safety, have recognized my hysteria, my danger potential? He, let us say, was lost in a dream world, but he didn't control that dream world, which, alas, is only too real. But didn't he rule me out of it? And if he had yelled for a policeman, wouldn't I have been taken for the offending one? Yes, yes, yes. Let me agree with you. I was the irresponsible one, for I should have used my knife to protect the higher interest of society. Someday that kind of foolishness will cause us tragic trouble. All dreamers and sleepwalkers must pay the price, and even the invisible victim is responsible for the fate of all. But I shirked that responsibility. I became too snarled in the incompatible notions that buzzed within my brain. I was a coward. But what did I do to be so blue? Bear with me. And that's the end of the prologue. We're going to stop right there. We're going to pick up with chapter 1 tomorrow. Hopefully you have some time to dive into this book yourself. Let me know what you think about it. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And just by reading the prologue, I know that we're in for a lot of laughs. A lot of laughs. This is going to be hilarious. Y'all stay tuned for more content. My name is Simon Hill. Peace.